Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Into the Hive Mind. For those of you who have seen my previous videos, as you can see, I just moved into a new house, not quite totally set up yet for the same backdrop as we've had in previous videos, but I just absolutely had to get this video out there as I have just heard of all of the stuff that is covered in the Warzone Octarius, and let me tell you, Nids are in a good spot again, which is phenomenal to hear. I'm super excited to try everything out. And I just wanted to give you guys a rundown of everything that's in that book. First off, shout out to Aceface from Twisted Dice. I just watched his video. That's how I know what's in there. So go ahead and check out his channel. Again, it's Twisted Dice. And otherwise, yeah, let's just dive right in. So first off are some Warlord traits. Basically, so this book is all about a supplement for Hive Fleet Leviathan. So almost everything applies to Leviathan specifically. So you will have to take that Hive Fleet in order to get these abilities. Trust me, you're going to want to. So at first it starts off with Warlord traits. There's actually only 3 new Warlord traits. The first one is the one that has been previewed, the Swarm Leader, which is amazing. It's Chapter Master rerolls in your command phase. Pick a unit within 9 inches of your Warlord. And that unit rerolls all hit rolls. Now that unit has to be infantry, beasts, or swarms. So none of our monster units get this, but that's fine. For the most part, our monsters have ways. They're either hitting on 3s or have like at least reroll 1s or something like that. But this allows us to reroll hit rolls with Hive Guard, with Warriors. Hive Guard and Warriors are probably just... that's what our codex is going to become, because almost everything in this buffs those 2 units super well. But yeah, reroll hit rolls, Chapter Master. It's a 9-inch bubble, so a little bit bigger, and it's pick a unit in your command phase. The second Warlord trait is Strategic Adaptation, which is pretty cool. It's basically the after deployment, after both players have deployed, but before the first battle round, you pick 2 Hive Fleet Leviathan units. You cannot pick your Warlord. And those units have to be in your deployment zone. And then you can put them into Strategic Reserve without spending CP. And you can ignore the whole have to have 50% of your forces on the battlefield after that roll. And if both players have a similar ability, you roll off to see who wins. The third and final ability is Gestalt Commander, which is the other one that was previewed. At the start of each battle round, you get to select a Warlord trait from one of the other Hive Fleets. You cannot pick the basic Leviathan Warlord trait, but you pick one of the Hive Fleet traits for your Warlord from the Tyranid Codex. So you don't get to do the Blood of Ball specific ones, but honestly, it's really cool that your commander, basically at the beginning of each command phase or beginning of each battle round, you select a Warlord trait for him from those chosen, and you have that for the round. So the ones that I think will be good is honestly, Hydra to regen wounds on 6s. If your Warlord has been beat to a pulp, then you can roll a bunch of dice and try and heal him a couple wounds. Other than that, the Kraken one to pick a unit to always fight first is decent. Or situationally, if you're going up against Thousand Suns or Grey Knights or something, the Kronos one for Deepest Shadow, if they fail a psychic test within 18 of your Warlord, they suffer perils. Except it's not perils, it's D3 mortals. But in case they have a rule to ignore perils, they don't ignore your Warlord trait ability. Honestly, it's a really cool one and super fluffy, but the Warlord traits from the Tyranid Codex just kind of suck, so probably just go with Swarm Leader. The Strategic Adaptation is kind of cool as well. Then we move on to relics. There are 4 relics. So again, you have the Synaptic Hive Blades, which was previewed, which is replace Bone Sword or Monstrous Bone Swords only. That means Swarmlord does not have this. He'll probably get it in the 9th edition codex whenever that shows up. But you cannot take invuln saves against the weapon. The problem with this is that Bone Swords are natively only AP 2. So most of the time, you're putting your opponent to what their invuln would have been anyways, such as a 2-up armor, 4-up invuln, 3-up armor, 5-up invuln. It's really good against Dark Eldar, which are, rampaging through the scene right now. Otherwise, you definitely want to put Murderous Size in order to be at least AP3 and flat 4 damage on like a Hive Tyrant with Lash Whip Bone Sword or double Bone Swords. I think is the only spot you're going to put this, but seems decent. The next relic that you can take is the Biomorphic Carapace, which is very simple. It's just -1 to wound against that character. Very simple, very strong. It's basically like the Kraken relic that makes you -1 to hit, except this one's -1 to wound. Put it on any big monster. It's decent. Make most of our monsters wounded on 5s or 6s. The Void Crown is for a Psyker only, and this is actually super good and might even replace the Resonance Barb, but you get to know 1 extra power, which is what Tyranids want. They don't want to be able to cast an extra power because Neurothropes already could cast 2 while only knowing 1. Now, you know an extra power, and then any unmodified roll of a 9+ on your Psychic test, then that power cannot be denied. And you can do a Psychic action and still cast 1 power. So putting that on a Neurothrope and then casting the Psychic Interrogation or the Psychic Ritual, or Warp Ritual, I guess now. But basically, you could do your Psychic action and you still get to cast a power. And if you roll on 9+ on actions or powers, you cannot be denied, which on a Neurothrope, especially rerolling those 1s, is amazing. So seems like a really cool relic and might even beat out the Resonance Barb now. And the final relic that we have is the Adaptive Neurolobe. This also very simple. When an opponent uses a stratagem, we roll a die, and on a 5+, we get a CP. Really simple. Also something Tyranids have needed desperately, is some form of CP regen other than the feeder tendrils. Now we've got it with the Adaptive Neurolobe. Honestly, all of those relics are really good, so I expect to see those. Synaptic Hive Blades, honestly, is actually kind of the worst one in my opinion, but still usable. So then we get on to the stratagems. So again, these are all basically Leviathan only, which is kind of a bummer, but they're good enough. Trust me, we should be happy. So the first stratagem, Relentless Fury. This is amazing. It's 1 or 2 CP, but you use it in your shooting phase or your fight phase. You'll probably use it in both when selecting a Leviathan unit. Until the end of your phase, unmodified 6s score an extra hit. So you have exploding 6s. Now that's basically giving Symbiostorm to any unit you want for 1 CP. And it can be used in combat. So just think of how good Symbiostorm is. However, it's now unmodified 6s, so you don't get the buff on the Exocrine. But if the unit has 11 or more models, then every roll of a 6+ is 2 extra hits. So absolute insanity. Even on just Termagants, like Termagant with Devour, 90 shots from 30 Gaunts, where every 6+ to hit is 2 extra hits, is insane. Now, this costs 1 CP for everything except Gene Stealers. If you put it on Gene Stealers, it's 2 CP. But still, even 2 CP on Gene Stealers, that's crazy good. You have a unit of 20, you have 80 attacks, and every 6 to hit is Tesla. Gene Stealers are blenders again. So, yeah, use that all the time. Next stratagem. Sorry, just so good. Next stratagem is Questing Tendrils. So you can use this basically if you outflank a unit. Most of the time what we've been doing lately, people have been outflanking a unit and then using a Lictor with the Pheromone Trail stratagem for 1 CP to deep strike instead of outflank. Or alternatively, you can now use this Questing Tendrils stratagem. One of your units set up in strategic reserves can set up as if it was turn 3. So basically that just means you can outflank into your opponent's deployment zone on turn 2 for 1 CP if you want. Decent, very situational. Then the other one was for 1 CP, Alpha Leader Beast. This was previewed. Basically, a Leviathan character who is not your Warlord trait gets to pick a Warlord trait specifically from the Leviathan Warlord trait page in this book. So you get one of the 3 that I listed earlier. I'd imagine basically how that's going to work is you're going to take an adaptive physiology instead of your regular Warlord trait, and then you're going to spend 1 CP and give Swarm Leader to another Synapse creature or another Warlord character. That's, I think, what everyone's going to do every single time. Next, for 1 CP, actually, sorry, I didn't catch what the name of this stratagem was, but it's auto explode on a Leviathan monster. So basically, if in death an ability would be triggered, you don't roll for it, it automatically happens. You cannot use this on Titanic, so no auto exploding your Harridan, as much as I would love that. It is, but what I did notice is Toxicrenes auto explode for flat 3 damage, or explode for flat 3. So if you feel like throwing a Toxicrene in your list, you can auto explode for flat 3 in a 6-inch bubble, or 3-inch bubble, but still really cool. Next, for 1 CP, Synaptic Domination. You use this in your Psychic phase, which is a little weird, but basically you're going to pick a Synapse and a non-Synapse unit. It's worded really confusingly, but basically you give Synapse to a creature that's outside of Synapse as long as the Synapse creature you picked is still alive. So you just basically count for 1 CP, you count a unit as always being within Synapse of 1 specific Synapse creature. Then next you have Control of the Swarm. I didn't catch the CP on this. I'd imagine 1. But if your Warlord is destroyed, you can pick another character who then gets another Warlord trait. I don't think you can pick a Warlord trait that you've already picked. If you could, though, you can just, and your Swarm Leader gets killed, you give the Swarm Leader to another unit, which seems super cool. Otherwise, situationally, if that Gestalt Commander ability seems really good in a unique situation, I guess maybe use it for that. Honestly, probably won't be using this one super often unless you can take the Swarm Leader multiple times. Next, we have Hive Mind's Imperative. Another one that is just stupidly good, and I did not catch how many CP it was. I would not be surprised if this was 2 CP, but it's pick a unit within 12 inches of a Synapse creature at the beginning of your command phase, and that unit gets OBSEC. If it already has OBSEC, it counts as 2 models until your next turn. And in addition to that, as if that was not good enough, that unit can also do an action and still shoot, which is crazy good. Again, you have 30 Termagants firing Devourers. They can now deploy your Scramblers or Rod, whatever, and still shoot. Next, we have Hyper Adaptive, which is another one in your command phase. 1 CP, select a Leviathan unit, and they get to count as being a different Hive Fleet. So if you really want to be Kraken for the turn, or Behemoth, for whatever reason, if you want to be a different Hive Fleet for 1 CP in your command phase, pick a unit, they get a new Hive Fleet adaptation. I'm not sure if they also count as being Leviathan. I'm hoping they do. But otherwise you might run into some issues of like, oh, now I don't get all these benefits that I'm otherwise getting for being Leviathan with the rest of my army. But really cool, really fluffy, and could definitely be useful. Next is the Void in the Warp. Tyranids are anti-psyker, and this is just even more anti-psyker. So during your opponent's psychic phase, after they pass a psychic test, and very importantly, after the deny roll is made, so you get to see if you've already denied the witch or not. But if you don't, then you can just, on a 4+, deny their psychic power if they have to be within 24 inches of a Leviathan Synapse creature to use the strat. But for 1 CP, we basically can, oh, I failed to deny? Well, now I at least get a 4-up and can try again, essentially. Super good. And then the last one, super, I love this. Let's get our flesh borers out again. Bioadaptive Borer Grub. Shooting phase Leviathan, in the shooting phase, pick a Leviathan unit, select, And that unit, that their flesh borers or flesh borer hive, any unmodified 6s to wound, do an additional mortal wound up to a cap of 6. And this stratagem is 1 CP or 2 if you use it on a flesh borer hive. I don't think we're going to be using it on a flesh borer hive, as much as I would love to see flesh borer hives on the table. I still don't think you're going to see them, but it's Wrath of Mars. It's Wrath of Mars on our flesh borers, which is super fun and makes me actually... It makes your 30-man Gaunt Blob that's otherwise just there to steal an objective actually be able to do damage for 1 CP, which is really good. I think mathing it out, you can... There are ways to make it where you're going to basically guarantee be able to get 6 mortal wounds. Keep in mind, if you have 20 or more models in the unit, you're rerolling 1s to wound, so that itself already helps. But that's all the stratagems. They're super good. I'm super happy with it, and unfortunately they're kind of Leviathan only, but we'll take it. So, next up are the Synaptic Links, and I have to say, there's way more than what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe 4 or 5 of them. There is one for every Synapse creature, which is phenomenal. So how these work, it's the same as all the like little buff abilities that go on characters and all the other codexes that have come out recently. You pay 15 points. It's 15 points for every single one of them, except for the zoanthropes is 10. But you pick this at the beginning of the battle. You can have a max of 3 Synaptic Links in a 2,000 point game. And basically you pay 15 points, and the model gains this ability in addition to having their synapse. And I believe you have to be pure Tyranids in order to have Synaptic Links. So that's the only downside. I guess you can't use these if you also include Genestealer Cult. I'm not 100% on that, but that's what I gathered. Just double check with that when you actually have the book in hand. But first off, let's start with the 2 that are already been previewed. You have the Broodlord, so all of these are given out in the command phase. It's pick a unit that is within your synaptic web. So as described in the release, basically it's within 12 inches, or if you have another synapse creature in that 12 inches, then you can basically extend the ability through their synapse within 12 inches of that model, and so on and so forth. It is not extended to 18 for Hive Tyrants, as far as I'm aware. So it's just 12 inches of a synapse creature, but you do form a synapse web that connects all of them, allowing your Broodlord to give its ability to a Termagant unit that is 30 inches away, as long as you have a connection of synapse creatures along that path. But anyways, the Broodlord is Mystery of Shadows, and it gives a unit light and heavy cover, as well as if that unit is being shot outside of 12 inches, they get dense cover. Monsters excluded from the dense cover, but you can give a monster unit light and heavy cover, which is just basically you're giving your Exocrine, you're giving your Hierophant +1 save. So all of a sudden your 800 point Hierophant can have a 1-up save. Aceface says that this is actually a really bad ability. I completely disagree. Having +1 save on any of our monsters is super good. Unfortunately, they don't get the -1 to hit for dense, but for monsters, you literally just put your foot in a piece of dense terrain and you get dense. So, anyways, would be super good, but keep in mind, this is heavy cover as well. So that includes in combat, which is just awesome. It's not as good on like our gaunts and stuff. I mean, it's all right. But specifically warriors and monsters, I think this ability is awesome to give to. Next up, we have Malicious Direction. This is the Hive Tyrants ability. Basically, you pick a unit, and that unit gets to pile in an extra 3 inches up to a max of 6. So it does not say pile in and consolidate. It just says pile in. So you get a 6-inch pile in on a unit, which is good. Probably not going to take it. The other ones are all just better, but if you want for 15 points, have your Hive Tyrant give a Genestealer unit a 6-inch pile in, would definitely be useful. Next up, we have the Maliceptor with an ability called Focal Essence. Guys, bring Maliceptors because this is super good. Pick a unit, and during wound rolls, in shooting and combat, any unmodified wound roll of a 6, the AP is improved by 1, and you get to re-roll the damage roll. So anything that's D3 damage, think Hive Guard, or any of our like D6 damage monsters, which we're probably not taking, but if you are, Demacarons are D3 plus 3. Any of that stuff, re-roll the damage roll, super good. But really, Hive Guard is the main thing that's going to get benefited by this. And then you have a Maliceptor around to be able to use that strat for -1 strength, which is always nice to have. Next up, we have the Neurothrope, who has been previewed. It's just a pick a unit. That unit has a 6-inch bubble of -1 to your opponent's leadership and their combat attrition tests. It's decent, it's cool and fluffy, but morale has... Maybe in the new book, we'll get a lot more morale abilities that also affect combat attrition. And if you can end up like stacking a -3 to combat attrition, then that would be good. But until we get to that point, it's not great. After the Neurothrope, we have the Zoanthrope. So keep in mind, this one is actually only a 10-point upgrade. But the Zoanthrope's ability is, again, pick a unit in the command phase, and that unit, their psychic tests, you roll 3d6 and drop 1. So basically, you get to pick a unit to almost guarantee that they get all their tests off, which is really good. Again, the other ones are kind of better, but if you can give it to a Hive Tyrant that also has the relic to basically know an extra power and have that just guarantee that you get all the key powers off that you need. Then we have the Tervigon's ability. Honestly, I kind of forgot we even had Tervigons, but it's a weaponized gene station. You pick a unit to reroll wound rolls of 1 and 2 with your ranged attacks. So unfortunately, this is not in combat, but you can give this again to Hive Guard, warriors. Because it's on a Tervigon, giving it to Termagants, it's not as effective because they're probably re-rolling wound rolls of 1 anyways. But now you can have them re-roll 1s and 2s. But yeah, I actually think taking a Tervigon, because of the Fleshborer strat, and having a Tervigon with this ability, you might take a Tervigon. I'm not sure. I still think it's too expensive. But maybe. This ability is really good. Reroll 1s and 2s with ranged attacks. You'd have to have a lot of monsters to basically kind of overload with toughness 8 monsters, so that way the Tervigon just doesn't die turn 1. But the ability itself is really good. I just don't know if it's good enough to bring Tervigons to the table. Next up, we have the Trigon Prime. His ability is just called Feed. It allows you you pick a unit and they can shoot and charge after falling back. That's super good. The biggest downside is it's on a Trigon Prime. And Trigon Primes are way too overcosted, and the ability has to be given out in the command phase, which means your Trigon Prime has to be on the table for more than a turn. And in my experience, that has never been a thing. They always die the turn they show up. And you can't give it the turn you show up because it has to be given out in the command phase. So, but it's a cool ability. Unit can shoot and charge after falling back. Would be really good to give to your, again, Hive Guard who got tied up, but I don't see that actually happening, that you have a Trigon Prime sitting around to give that to your Hive Guard. Next up, Aceface did not say which model this was, but through process of elimination, I believe this is the Tyranid Prime, has unchecked ferocity, and basically pick a unit, and in melee, their unmodified hit rolls of 6 will auto wound. It's all right. I'd prefer to, you can stack that with the stratagem for your 6s to hit also explode. So then you're basically every 6 to hit is a hit and a wound, which is pretty cool. It's just, I don't know if it's the best one, but could definitely be useful. The problem is that it's only in melee, so putting it basically on warriors and Termagant, or warriors and Hormagaunts and Gene Stealers is kind of the only thing I would see that going on. Speaking of warriors, they get their own Synaptic Link ability, and it's super good. Bring warriors, at least one big unit of 9. Their ability is each attack in melee and shooting gets +1 to hit. You pick a unit in your command phase, give them +1 to hit. Super good. Yeah, that's all the Synaptic Link abilities. I would definitely go with the Warrior, the Broodlord, and the Maliceptor, in my opinion, are kind of the best 3. The Tervigon one is cool, but I'm not sure it's worth bringing a Tervigon for. And the rest of the book is basically just a copy and paste of the Blood of Baal, as well as 3 pages of Crusade rules, which it's cool to play, have some Crusade rules. I haven't tried Crusade out, but now that I have rules, I probably will. And yeah, the rest of it is literally just a copy and paste of Blood of Baal. I'm assuming they at least fixed some of the stuff that they FAQ'd in the Blood of Baal book. If it was a literal copy and paste, it's GW, guys. Who knows? But anyways, that's what came out. Hope you liked the video. I will come out with a lot more videos now because I'm definitely playing Nids again. I have an event next weekend, just a small RTT, but I'm definitely taking this. And in 4 weeks, I have a major that I'm going to, that I'm bringing Tyranids. So I'm definitely going to throw a list together. I'll probably make a video on what I'm planning on bringing, and then I'll make another video on how it goes. And I'm really excited, guys. This is amazing, and thanks for watching the video. I will see you all in the next one, and happy hunting with these new Nids. Thanks.